Facebook Live video now. I get to stop it. Like, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So we have another. Yeah. We're gonna park. Yeah, we're gonna park that one. I think that guy right there. He's so good. That's a really good song. Yeah, maybe once the other campaign, we'll be able to do anything once back in, maybe just start rolling once we see that thing. Oh, okay. Yeah, all right.
I heard something.
Yeah, we all did.
The
noise?
motorcycle.
We all heard the noise.
I know. I'm watching closely. It's a little bit longer than a 15-minute window in between the doors.
Actually.
put that.
Yes, sir.
I'll put that. We got that picture.
Okay.
So I'm going to ride.
Oh.
So I put the tripod in your seat.
Okay.
Just trying to move it to the side.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
You're gonna go out to the front? Because I got her. Oh, but you said they have an extra first position. No, I'm sitting Saturday. So they also have an extra
Plane's coming in, y'all. Get ready. I don't know where it is, but it's coming. If y'all see it, I think it should be that way. Oh, there it is. Thank you.
We know the family is on a bus just ahead. Now, it's interesting. We've talked about also funeral services getting set for tomorrow. If you weren't with us earlier, we've learned some very big dignitaries are expected in town to say goodbye to Congressman Lewis. 3 former presidents, President Barack Obama, who actually gave John Lewis a nice plaque recognizing him for helping him to get into the presidency, is what he has said. So he gave him a plaque saying that, gifted him a photograph with words, "Because of you," is what it said. And we know former President George W. Bush will be here in attendance in Atlanta at Ebenezer Baptist Church, as well as former President Bill Clinton. So I've also been told that here at home, Ambassador Andrew Young and Mrs. Carolyn Young will be in attendance at tomorrow's ceremony, as will Mrs. Billy Aaron, the wife of Home Run King Hank Aaron. And then we've talked to the pastor at Ebenezer, who said, you know, it would be important for them to make sure everyone is social distance, but they really wanted to be able to say goodbye properly to the congressman, as they weren't able to do when we lost right at the beginning of this pandemic another very dear fighter in this fight for civil rights, and how we have not been able to really for Reverend C.T. Vivian. So this will be an important goodbye tomorrow at Ebenezer, 11 a.m. Our cameras will be inside. It is a private service, so we'll make sure to bring all of it right to you. We're going to stream it, and we will have it live on CBS 46 for all to enjoy. Trying to take a look at some of the people getting off of the plane, ready to escort the congressman's body here from Cobb County to Atlanta. Now, we've got, as we've heard, several crews all along the routes. Haley Mason, right to the side of me at the door where most of the dignitaries will be going in. Georgia delegation, Georgia's Congressional Black Caucus speaking. They will have time with the congressman's body right after their ceremony. And we've got Rebecca Schramm, who has been on the route as well. She is at the Tuttle Federal Building, 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, actually, where many of the civil rights cases were heard. Reverend, and we understand Congressman Lewis actually helped dedicate that courthouse. It is a National Historic Site. So we will stay here to bring you all of the coverage. Tracy, I'm going to send it back to you in the studio to get us updated on just what's next.
All right, Karen, thank you. As we continue to watch live pictures from Dobbins Air Reserve Base, again, Karen, as you mentioned, awaiting the casket carrying Congressman John Lewis from there, and that will be loaded onto a hearse, and then that hearse will depart and be part of a motorcade that will traverse the city of Atlanta. And Greer, it's interesting, I was able to speak to Atlanta fire officials that, you know, the 2 ladder trucks with the flag that Congressman Lewis's motorcade will travel under. Of course, we saw that last week with Reverend Dr. C.T. Vivian. And the fire department tells me tomorrow, after the services, there will be several locations where they will have those ladder trucks and the flag as Congressman Lewis's body in that hearse will be carried under. And that's a tribute, certainly a fitting tribute for a man who did so much.
It's as if we can't say thank you enough.
Absolutely.
You know, and I really think we cannot as we continue to look at these live pictures from Dobbins, Tracy. It's interesting, Karen mentioned the 3 former presidents who will be here to pay their respects to him tomorrow. All of them with a special relationship with him. You know, Barack Obama presenting him with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is the highest civilian honor you can get. And he presented him that 9 years ago. And interesting, he also had a very special relationship with Bill and Hillary Clinton. They were friends. And when Barack Obama first was running for the Democratic ticket, wanting to be the Democratic nominee for president, Congressman Lewis actually supported Hillary Clinton. And then said, because of pressure from his district, he switched. And he said, I will throw my support behind Barack Obama. And Barack Obama never forgot that.
No.
And when John Lewis received that Presidential Medal of Freedom, he said, I'm not so much lucky, but blessed. And I think that's how we feel. You know, perhaps he felt that way certainly, but we feel blessed to have had him serving us for the past 33 years and even longer.
And there will be a number of locations that, as we mentioned, that motorcade will stop in. And because of that, traffic will be halted across some parts of Metro Atlanta. Rodney Harris has been taking a close look at many of those locations. And I know, Rodney, are you with us? Oh, we may have lost Rodney.
I think Rodney may be checking his maps just to see exactly, where some of those road closures might be, and he'll join us sometime in the next few minutes to sort of let you know areas you might want to avoid. Of course, you can stay right where you are because we're going to have you covered as that motorcade makes its way through the city of Atlanta and down to the Capitol.
And another reminder, too, the public viewing is from 3 until 10 p.m. today, actually from 3 until 7 p.m., and then they stop down for Phi Beta Sigma ceremony,
right.
The fraternity that Congressman Lewis belonged to, and then it'll pick back up at 8:30 p.m., that public viewing. And of course, if you plan to attend or have this be a teachable moment for your family members, please wear a mask and please social distance as well. And for those who aren't able to attend, the family, wants to make sure that you will be able to watch this as well because it'll be live streamed on a number of platforms. There's a very special website that the family and representatives have set up. It's johnlewislegacy.org. There's a number of things on that website. And also the family is asking people to tie a blue or purple ribbon on their front doors or put in their front yards to commemorate the life of Congressman John Lewis. And as people are lining up there, we will still continue to await the arrival of Congressman John Lewis's casket. So in the meantime, we are keeping an eye on this, but we do want to take a quick break if we can. Not sure that we can because we do see the honor guard walking out. We will take a quick break and be back right after this.
Win your case. Call now and find out what your case is really worth.
Mungie and Associates, 678 Injured.
Do you need to replace your air conditioning and heating system? Now is the perfect time with All Good Plumbing, Electric Heating and Cooling. Get that new energy efficient HVAC system for as low as $99 per month. You could also be eligible for up to $300 in federal tax credits. Visit callallgood.com for details.
Before he became a career politician, Doug Collins was a criminal defense lawyer. On his website, Collins advertised directly to sex offenders, drug dealers, even murderers. Collins and his partner helped violent criminals and gang members get out of jail. Some struck again. Doug Collins, he only plays a conservative.
Georgia's 5th Congressional District for 33 years. He has come back home, his adopted home, of course, born in Alabama, but really made Atlanta his home. He served on city council for a short time before running for Congress, and as we know, maintained that seat until his last day. We continue to take a live look at Dobbins Air Reserve Base as that motorcade gets ready to depart and cross Atlanta. Our Karen Greer told us just a short time ago that a number of stops that motorcade was expected to make in locations that were significant to the congressman will not be made now. We're still trying to work out and figure out when that will actually happen. We do know a number of people have likely lined that route, and we do have a number of our colleagues there along that route. Of course, many of them waiting to pay tribute, but right now we understand that motorcade will head directly to the state capitol, where there will be a series of speakers there for special services starting at 2 p.m. with Governor Brian Kemp, and also Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms will make her remarks as well. And there will be private ceremonies, including for the Legislative Black Caucus as well, and a public viewing that is expected to begin, Greer, at 3 p.m. Not hearing at this point that will be changing, but there's a possibility. Things it appears are very fluid. So as we watch this motorcade here, we do see, of course, a number of Atlanta police officers. The hearse there in the middle, and that bus there in the back is carrying family members of Congressman John Lewis, who we saw get off a flight earlier this morning.
He will lie in state at our state capitol in the overnight hours so that people can pay their respects. But he did that in Washington, D.C., and people were able to file past his casket, actually outside on the steps, the east steps of the Capitol, where he served for so many years. And every single day for the past 5 days, we have celebrated what John Lewis has meant to our state and to this country, each day signifying something important in his life, starting in Alabama, in Troy, Alabama, where he was born, to the church where so many of those where the civil rights movement really began, and some of those rallies began, to that final journey, which, you mentioned a few minutes ago, Tracy, that this might be a teachable moment for so many people. I have to tell you that my family and I watched on Sunday as that caisson went across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Sunday again, right? But this time, instead of blood, there were flower petals lining that bridge, and we wept as we watched. And my 12-year-old twins, we talked about the significance of John Lewis and what he meant to the civil rights movement, not only back then, but what it means for them and their futures going forward. And that really is his legacy. And even when he announced months ago that he was in stage 4 cancer, he continued to fight. I think one of the images that really stands out in my mind as we continue to take a look at that motorcade and Dobbins Air Reserve Base, bringing John Lewis's body back to Atlanta from Washington, D.C. One image that stands out in my mind is that even though his body was frail, his resolve was so strong, is the Black Lives Matter movement. And he is standing there with his mask on, arm in arm, fighting to move forward. Because so much had changed. He said he never thought that he would, in his lifetime, see a black man in the White House. And yet there was Barack Obama, that Presidential Medal of Freedom. That changed, but so much needs to change. And again, as we look at this, I have to tell you, too, that this morning on CBS 46 Morning News, we were reporting about the Confederate statue that came down in McDonough.
Yes.
And I was thinking how significant that was on a day that John Lewis is coming back home. That statue is being removed.
His legacy is long-lasting. It's interesting to see what has happened during his lifetime. 80 years, really almost all of those years of public service. By the time he was 23, I don't remember what I was doing at 23. It certainly wasn't what he had done. By the age of 23, a keynote speaker at the historic March on Washington, of course, with Martin Luther King Jr.
He was speaker number 6.
Yes.
Martin Luther King Jr. was the 10th speaker, and now all 10 are gone. Yeah. He was the last one of those 10.
During his lifetime, some 45 arrests for sitting at lunch counters, fighting for civil rights. part of the Freedom Riders, working to desegregate buses. You know, really, when you talk about a lifetime of service, it is truly a lifetime of service, and continued the fight and continued to remind people how important it was to vote. Even today, so important to vote. And in the midst of this pandemic, he certainly understood the gravity of it. As you mentioned, one of his last public appearances there in the Black Lives Matter Plaza in Washington, D.C. But to his dying day, he was an advocate for civil rights and making sure that everyone had the right to vote.
As we continue to watch this motorcade making its way to the state capitol, we're going to take a break. We'll be streaming this live on CBS46.com.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage, remembering the life and legacy of Congressman John Lewis. The plane carrying John Lewis's casket arrived a short time ago at Dobbins Air Reserve Base. You're looking at live pictures right now of the motorcade as it leaves Dobbins and heads now to the state capitol. Let's head out to CBS 46 anchor Karen Greer. She's live at the Capitol, one of many of our colleagues there as part of this team coverage. As we watch this motorcade here, Karen, we can see a number of people just really right there on the roadway taking pictures. They want to see part of history, which is what is happening today.
Yes, Tracy, Gravira, it was very moving to see the hearse moving down that flag-lined street in that residence in Cobb County. You know, the flags were flying as they were driving through with the police escort. So many, look at people on the side of the street with signs. They know that route. They know that he is heading right here to the Georgia State Capitol. Many really out there to pay their final respects, won't perhaps make it here to the Capitol to go into the rotunda and see his body as it lies in state tonight and tomorrow before the funeral tomorrow. But I'm told it should be about 20 to 30 minutes before that procession makes its way here to the state capitol. The plan originally was to stop at some very important sites, important locations dear to Congressman John Lewis's heart. The 10th Street and Piedmont, that rainbow as it's called, crosswalk that was painted at 10th Street around Pride celebrations every year that ended up being able to stay there. The mayor said it could stay. He was a big supporter of the LGBTQ community. So that was one of the places he wanted to stop because he felt like he'd help make a difference there. Also wanted to stop at the birthplace, historic birthplace of his dear friend, the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And he wanted to stop at the Tuttle Court of Appeals, where most of the civil rights cases were heard. And he actually served as the person who helped dedicate that building a few years back. So he wanted, that was probably things that he mentioned because we know he was preparing for this moment for a while. When you talk to friends who knew him, who saw him in these last days, I had heard that he had perhaps talked to his staff, said really how much he loved them and appreciated them before his death. And understand at some point he was talking a lot to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who was a very dear friend So this, as you see, they are making their way, should be what, 285 to 75, 85 right here at the Capitol. They'll make their way right here, come in the front on Washington Street and stop. And his hearse will remain here. They will take him up the stairs here at the Capitol, where he and his family will be greeted by Governor Kemp and Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. So that is the hearse heading this way. And we've got Haley Mason, who has seen some of the legislators come in from the Georgia Congressional Black Caucus who are here. They are celebrating the congressman's life and going to do a small ceremony, Haley.
Yes, Karen, we are actually just a block down from you, where we are awaiting that motorcade carrying the body of the late Congressman John Lewis. And so many people have gathered all around us to sign this massive sympathy card. We're going to pan over here. We were in Troy when this sympathy card made its way down to Alabama, saying with deepest sympathy from all of us. And people on the inside of the card signed in Alabama. On the outside of the card, they're now signing in Atlanta. This card just made its way back from Washington, D.C. last night. A local probation officer and youth leader has been bringing this card around the country, and he plans to donate it to the Smithsonian Museum. And so just a special tribute to Congressman Lewis as we await this motorcade and the special ceremony inside the rotunda. We do know this afternoon that the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus will have a special ceremony for Congressman Lewis. Governor Kemp and Mayor Bottoms will be speaking inside the rotunda, and the congressman's body will lie in state this evening. I'll move out of the shot so that you can see where some people are starting to line up in the streets. There is a state trooper that just blocked off the road in front of us, and people are with their lawn chairs and umbrellas gathering in the street to take a look and pay respect to Congressman Lewis as his body is brought here this afternoon. We know the ceremony is supposed to start in about an hour and 15 minutes. His body will then lie in state from 3 to 7, and then from 8 to 10, it will lie in state again. And I thought it was so important to note just how much he loves his staff. Karen mentioned that he spoke to them in his last days and shared his appreciation with them, saying goodbye in a way. I've been told that he essentially said goodbye to his staff a couple weeks ago. And overnight, his former staff members, his current congressional staff members, family and friends all gathered inside the U.S. Capitol's rotunda to stay vigil alongside the congressman's casket throughout the night up until 8 o'clock this morning. They took shifts in pairs and made sure they stood beside him. And I do want to note the family again is asking that people please wear masks. When I was in Troy, Alabama, this is one of the masks that they gave us. It says John Lewis, 1940 to 2020, keep the faith, Troy, Troy. And so you may see some people wearing this cloth mask out of respect for the pandemic. The family had passed these out when we were in Troy, Alabama. And today, many people we see are wearing their masks, honoring their wishes and also paying respects to this crusader of freedom and civil rights.
Haley, can I ask you a quick question? You were in Troy, and you know, here we are. We've been talking so much about the congressman and his staff and flying in on Nancy Pelosi's plane. Yet when you were in Troy, for those people of Troy, he was just a boy from Troy. He was the boy that they remembered growing up on a sharecropper's farm, preaching to the chickens, never imagining that this is where we would be today. Can you talk a little bit about how they remember him?
Certainly, Gavir. What stands out to me most is talking to John Lewis's sister this past weekend as we stood on the campus of Troy University. Miss Ethel May Lewis Tyners, who I spoke with, and she says, I thought about it last night. I thought about it this morning at the time. The boy from Troy, we knew him as Robert. We didn't call him John, she said. His siblings only called him Robert. She says the boy from Troy went to Washington And now he is back home, and we're so proud and we're so happy that people are honoring him and people are being so nice to him, is what Miss Ethel May told me. And just right outside of Troy, Alabama. Actually, Troy is so rural, but the family grew up on a family farm. John Lewis often tells the story of how his parents, sharecroppers, his dad raised $300 at the time, and their family bought 110 acres of land, and the family bought that land, stayed on that land, raised chickens, as he would often say, was his first audience. The chickens that he raised, he said he wanted to be a preacher growing up, and on that farm he had to tend to the chickens, and he said that was his first congregation. He would ask them not to fight and not to fuss, and he said when his parents wanted to eat chicken, he would protest the meals and boycott the meals, and that was his first boycott, if you will. And so for people in Troy, yes, that was a special homecoming for them, and it will be very similar for his adopted home of us here in Atlanta.
Absolutely,
Devere.
absolutely. You know, you talk about the fact that he wanted to be a preacher, and you know, I think that goes to the heart of who John Lewis was until the very end. I mean, without reproach. There aren't very many people on Capitol Hill, I think, that you might be able to say that about. Perhaps I shouldn't say that, but John Lewis, for one, I think you certainly could say that his heart was always right, that man judges the outside, but God judges your heart. And John Lewis always knew that. All right, we are watching John Lewis being taken by motorcade to the Georgia State Capitol, and that's where Karen Greer is for us this afternoon. Karen.
Yes, I am with someone who really needs to get inside the Capitol to be a part of the service. It's going to be happening in just about 45 minutes. Karen Bennett joining us, head of the Georgia Congressional Black Caucus. Thank you so much for joining us, and representative from District 94. Karen, tell us, this is definitely, I know, a tough time for all of you.
It is, and thank you, Karen. This is a somber day, but it's a great day. It's a day that we all are proud to celebrate in honor of our great and beloved Congressman John Lewis.
And I said Congressional Georgia Legislative Black Caucus. You just honored him. I actually emceed the event for you just months ago.
Yes, we honored him with the Soldier of Justice Award, the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus, and we were proud to do so. And we just continue to shout praises for him and celebrate him in every way that we can.
And you will be doing the prayer before today's ceremony, which will kick off just right at about 2 o'clock this afternoon. How is that for you? I know it's going to be a solemn, very tough time.
It is, because I knew that John Lewis loved the Lord, and I love the Lord and am a pastor as well. It's my honor to just sing praises to God and thank God for his life and legacy, and all of the people that will be there joining us today.
Do you look at your life and perhaps where you would be today if it weren't for the works of Congressman Lewis?
I shudder to think, getting in good trouble, his march for voting rights, his march for justice and equality, and now equity. I don't know where I would be, but I just thank God for the life and legacy of Congressman John Lewis.
And watching the celebrations from his home of Troy to Selma to the nation's capital, ending up back here at home, and we're told 3 former presidents will be in attendance for his ceremony tomorrow. Former President Obama, former President Clinton, and former President Bush. His legacy touching so many.
It touched the world. It has changed the world. And as a testament to his greatness, we will see him revered and recognized by those presidents. And he will be recognized all over the world. There's none other like John Lewis. He's just another king in our history for civil rights, human rights, and justice.
Watching as we see his motorcade heading down the interstate, heading over here to the Capitol, because I understand they're going to be coming straight to us. Capitol Police preparing the street, people lined up along the street. That's really a solemn, bittersweet feeling, isn't it?
It certainly is. It actually brings goosebumps and chills to me to know that he's in that hearse. I've watched the proceedings from as they carried him across the Edmund Pettus Bridge with the rose petals, as they took him off of the Air Force II in Washington, D.C., as they took him past the Martin Luther King Jr. Monument, and as the hearse stopped on the Black Lives Matter street. It's just been an awesome celebration, one fit for a king.
Absolutely. Looks like they're right at the connector right there. So they are heading here very shortly. They're very close.
And I must get in. So thank you for having me, and God bless you, and we'll see you on the other side.
All right, Representative Bennett, thank you so much for stopping to chat with us. Congressman Lewis, of course, means so much to her and other members of the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus who will be celebrating his life inside the Capitol in about 45 minutes from now. That's after the governor and the mayor welcome him and his family, welcome his body here to the Capitol and his family, and they move right on into the rotunda. It has been, I'm sure, a very touching and emotional time for the family of Congressman Lewis as well. We saw getting off the plane, the first one, off the plane that was carrying his body was his son, John Miles. John Miles will be presented with a flag by the governor today in those ceremonies that will take place in the Capitol. He has held up very well through all of this. I know, watching his dad go through this cancer diagnosis once he learned about it in December, and watching him try and fight through it. I'm sure it's been a tough time. There is a new documentary out about Congressman Lewis that hopefully many people will get a chance to see. It's called Good Trouble, because if you've known him, if you've heard him speak, you know that's something he spoke of a lot. His books, you know, he even worked on a comic book with someone else to try and make sure his legacy was taught to even the youngest members of our society so that they learned who John Lewis was. Not just the big novels and the autobiographies, but comic books with John Lewis's name on them exist out there, which I'm sure many people will cherish forever. This motorcade, as we said, was going to make several stops along the way at places very important to the congressman, but we can see it is not doing that. It is very close to us here at the Capitol. They will be moving in here. The streets are blocked off, and we understand he will be coming under the flag, which is right at MLK and Washington Street. It is very fitting on this Wednesday at 1:22 that really the city stops. Look at the traffic. It has just stopped. And I know Rodney Harris has been working on routes and which way people were going to be coming, because as you can see, streets are blocked off. But all of that changed. You know, the congressman's family decided we wanted to get right to the Capitol, and we will try and make those very important stops a little later. Right there, it looked like they were right at about 14th Street, right at maybe near Georgia Tech. So we are waiting for them to wind off the interstate there and come down MLK and cross over right here at Washington. We have crews all along this route who are, you know, ready to talk about how important this day is going to be for families. There is a great shot of the motorcade with the bus with families of John Lewis and some very dear friends who have traveled from the nation's capital to be here for the ceremonies here in Atlanta. All right, take a look. I'm watching. It looks like right there I see. Looks like we are. Where are we right now? Tell me.
I'm looking.
Karen, it looks like 10th
10th
Street.
and Piedmont.
Possibly.
Oh, no. Hold on,
Yes.
guys. Hold on, guys. Yeah. Now, where are we? This is a family member, a friend of the congressman.
Yes, we are running on time. The congressman landed at Dobbins Air Force Base this morning at approximately 12:10. The motorcade is at 10th and Piedmont. Yes, and live coverage there, and we'll be here on time. And so we're grateful to the city of Atlanta for welcoming him home.
And can I say there was a plan to stop at some of his favorite places? You guys decided to bring him right here.
Absolutely. The congressman obviously was committed to all people, and so we mentioned the Rainbow Crossing. He will also be making a route past his congressional office at the Equitable Building, and then sweeping down Auburn Avenue so that he can go by the mural that was painted in his honor. And so we're so excited to welcome him back home.
Oh, and I know you've been out here helping the family to do this. So we appreciate you for doing that and keeping the press up to date. As we know, we're going to see everything happen right behind us. How long have you been a dear friend of the family.
Hopefully you can see my smile behind this mask. The congressman has been an inspiration and my hero since I was his intern in the early 90s. Yes, and he was the real deal, and anyone who had the honor of knowing him personally will co-sign on that for me. So it's an honor to serve him today.
And you guys started working on this celebration of life a while back. There was a committee of all of you guys who really kind of worked on all of the day's plans because that was something important to him.
Absolutely. A lot of love and attention went into making sure that we are doing everything in the spirit of the congressman. Very humble, very organized, and filled with love.
And there is what?
Oh, there's the rainbow crossing.
It tickles you to see.
It does. It means a lot to me. The congressman, was about equality and justice and freedom for all mankind. And so we just hope that his legacy will continue to live on and that he will continue to inspire generations for eternity.
For eternity. Watching them pause there at that intersection that, we remember that wouldn't have happened years before, Congressman Lewis. It wouldn't have happened years before the mayor saying, you know what, it can stay there. It used to just go up for Pride Week, and now it is something that is a permanent fixture here in Atlanta because of, the fights that he had for the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, absolutely. And freedom and equality and equity is certainly worth fighting for. And we're happy that even when we greet him today at the Georgia State Capitol, he will be the first African American to lie in state in the history of the state of Georgia. And what better candidate than the congressman?
Can I say he has made history still all along the way, being the first African American lawmaker in the nation's capital to lie in state was an amazing feat. Still making history, and we don't have him here, but his legacy definitely living on. First African American to lie in state here at the state capitol of Georgia as well. And that ceremony inside, John Miles, his son, will be getting a flag from the governor.
He will. His legacy lives on. And special blessings to all of the people in the city of Atlanta who are joining us to celebrate such a great man and, again, our hero.
Yes, he is. Now, they're going to make their way. Are they going to stop, you think, at the Equitable Building now? Or is that they were planning to come right here? Things keep being fluid.
We're keeping a tight schedule, so they will pause as appropriate, but they will certainly be here at the state capitol on time.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Leilani.
Hey, Karen.
I can't believe it. I've known her a million years, and she was an intern that long ago. It makes me feel old. Yes, Gravere, I can hear you in my ear.
Hey, I was, everybody that talks about John Lewis talks about just what a nice man he was. And I can echo those sentiments because I had the opportunity to interview him on several occasions when I lived and worked up in Washington, D.C. So nice, so genuine and so nice. Not a man to get very angry at all, very rarely. But when he did, it was because of injustice. So when you heard John Lewis raise his voice or, speak with such veracity, it was because of injustice. But apart from that, it was just such a kind, gentle heart that he had.
Absolutely, and always giving, no matter who the person was, he was always giving, always listening. If you ever, visited, and I'm sure you did, Gravere, his congressional office there in the nation's capital, it was always full of people, taking meetings, wanted to meet him, wanted to talk to him, school groups of kids, and he always had Coca-Cola to offer you and some peanuts from Georgia. I'll never forget, I would take friends and family there when I'd go to Washington, D.C. because he was always so welcoming. And, you could just tell him you were going to be in town, and he would meet you there. And, one of my John Lewis stories, I remember wanting to go to the inauguration for the first time of President Barack Obama, and I'd asked my congressperson for a ticket because they said you let them know, you asked them for tickets. My congressman wasn't able to give me one, so I asked Congressman Lewis, and he gave me a ticket to the inauguration. It was such an amazing moment.
Always
so he
generous.
Did that for people all over, no matter who you were.
Absolutely,
that's right,
Karen.
So I think we're going to take a break right now, and I'm going to send it back over to you guys.
As we continue to watch this motorcade move through Midtown Atlanta, we will continue to stream this live on our CBS 46 app. And right now, we are pausing our coverage. We'll see you back here at 2 p.m. Welcome back to our continuing coverage of CBS 46. Right now, we watch the motorcade carrying the casket of Congressman John Lewis move through Midtown Atlanta. Right now, it's on Monroe. As it traverses the city, things have been expedited just a bit, moving pretty rapidly on their way to the state capitol there for services that will begin at 2 p.m. Start of an invitation-only ceremony there. And this is truly one of those days that we heard from State Representative Karen Bennett, who will kick off that ceremony, saying it's a somber day, but it's a great day. This is a homegoing celebration. Congressman John Lewis devoted most of his life to serving the state of Georgia and certainly the country, and really fighting for voter rights, for equality, for civil rights. Just a moment ago, we saw the motorcade there pause there at 10th and Piedmont, and between those rainbow crosswalks there, such a moving moment as we see the motorcade there on the right and the hero mural there on the left. The motorcade will be passing by that shortly, but today, Gravir, such an opportunity for so many people. We've seen a number of people line that route despite the pandemic. And so many people are, of course, sheltering in place. Can't even imagine what this would look like if we weren't in the midst of the pandemic. But to see all those people in Midtown Atlanta stand there ready to take a picture to watch his final journey home.
Right. His family had mentioned when he was lying in state up in Washington, D.C. at the Capitol, please, they really implored people, do not make the trip from across the country to come to our nation's capital because of what's happening. But you know what? People did it anyway because they wanted to pay their respects. Our Adam Murphy interviewed a man up in Washington who said, I never met him in person. I wish I had, but this is my opportunity to meet him now and say goodbye and say thank you. And that's what these people want to do. This is literally a part of history. That hero mural, I mean, how appropriate is that?
Exactly.
Karen mentioned, you know what, she was able to reach out to him about the inauguration, but that's on one level. John Lewis didn't care who you were. John Lewis doesn't care who you were. He was kind, he was giving, he was generous. He cared about you as a human being, no matter who you were. And I think that's what resonates with so many people from Alabama to Washington, D.C. to here. You know, he flew in, his body flew in today to Dobbins Air Reserve Base on a private plane belonging to Nancy Pelosi. And they were good friends. They were political allies. But I think what you have seen over the last 5 days is even those who were on the opposite side of the aisle from John Lewis could never say that he wasn't a man of integrity. They may not have agreed with him on his politics, but they liked him. And that's rare these days on Capitol Hill, if I may say.
Absolutely, truly a giant. Let's go back out. I believe, Rodney, this is along Freedom Parkway where they are, correct?
Yeah, so Tracy, they are actually following the original route. They're on Freedom Parkway now, and then from there they're going to take you to Boulevard. That's going to take you to the historic MLK district. But as we speak, Tracy Gavir, this is Freedom Parkway, so they are, in fact, going the original route and stopping at all the places that they had originally intended on stopping.
Yep, trying to just make that route as quickly as possible. Let's go back out now to our Karen Greer. She is live at the state capitol where those services will begin in less than a half an hour. And Karen, we know you were able to speak to a few people there who will be part of the services. And yes.
So yeah, ladies, I'm guessing, you know, the thing was they thought they were going to just come straight here, but, you know, they knew the importance of all of those locations that he would want to see. So they figured they would expedite them, not a long pause, but stop and just keep it moving. With me now, Fulton County Commission Chair Rob Pitts, who very good friend of Congressman Lewis. Talk to us about what he meant to you.
Well, most people will remember him as a civil rights hero, leader, icon, etc., or a member of Congress. I have those memories as well. But I most remember him, though, as a colleague when he served on the Atlanta City Council. Most people don't even know that he served on the Atlanta City Council. And frequently, he and I were on different sides of issues. He was a formidable opponent, but well respected. His views, I mean, just John was always John. You know, at that time, he was a staunch neighborhood activist. When you talk about activists, that word really applies to him. And he was the darling of the in-town neighborhoods. I was sort of on the other side, representing business interests in sort of Buckhead. So we clashed quite a bit, in particular on the Presidential Parkway. He fought it tooth and nail. Now, we won in the end, but John was just a very special person. So it's just fitting that he's being honored and given the respect that he really so richly deserved, not only in his native Troy, but going back to Selma, Edmund Pettus Bridge, Washington, D.C., and now resting place, Atlanta, Georgia, a place that he called home.
And Chairman Pitts, we are watching because we are rolling live with our chopper overhead. Some of the locations, we said Freedom Parkway, which is now John Lewis.
Ironically, John Lewis. Yeah, we had some battles over it. We were on different sides.
But now named after him. And, you know, another one is the Tuttle Court of Appeals, which was very important to him because a lot of the civil rights cases were fought there.
That's exactly right. So he has meant so much to us. And he was all, when they talk about him being the conscience of Congress, but he was also, I think, much more than that, because when people think about and talk about nonviolence and civility and calmness and respect for others, that's John Lewis.
So you guys going in to the ceremony today?
Yes, I'll be there representing county government. So I'm just honored to have been asked, you know, by the family to come, based upon my relationship with him, first of all, but also being chair of the commission, to show our respect for him on behalf of the 1 million plus people who call Fulton County home.
And you know,
you called Fulton County home.
Absolutely. It's funny you talk about, though, him on Atlanta City Council. A lot of people don't really know how he came to be a congressman.
Well, I do.
And that fight that transpired.
Yeah, those were some difficult times in Atlanta. That really, there were two giants, John Lewis and Julian Bond. In fact, I thought about running in that race, quite frankly, and there was a poll taken at that. I would have done very well then if I had no interest in going to Washington. But that race pitted the two of them, very good friends at the time, and it really divided the black community. You had the John Lewis supporters, you had the Julian Bond supporters, and then some of us felt that everything that was said should have been kept within the family, but it wasn't. It became public, and I guess the rest is history.
It is history. Yeah. 33 years he's been serving. Thank you so much, Commissioner Pitts.
Thank you.
Chairman Pitts,
Thank
for
you.
joining us. We are going to toss it out to our Ashley Thompson, who is over at the mural, which is one of the stops that's going to be made. A nice quick stop there. Ashley.
That's right. Hello, Karen. What a historic day for Atlanta. Atlanta loved the congressman, and the congressman loved Atlanta. So yes, we're right in front of this hero mural. We'll show you what's going on. You can see some of the press down there, and the motorcade is getting ready to roll through. Not sure if you can hear it right now. Let's take a listen. Looks like police are starting to block off this road right now. But yes, this is one of those pivotal stops. Here they come. There's so much history here on Auburn Avenue, as you know. Prior to the civil rights movement, was home to a slew of black businesses and a lively black community. We know the Martin Luther King Jr. National Historical Site is on this street, less than half a mile away. Several influential black churches on this street, other historic landmarks. And yes, we've been showing you this hero mural for days, and this is where people have been continuing to come to lay flowers, to lay posters, to pay their respects. And let's take a look and see exactly where they're coming. Here it is. You can see, stopping right there and just taking it all in. So we will as well. That's just incredibly amazing. You know, this mural was dedicated to the congressman in 2012, and he was here for it. And it embodies everything that he was, a true hero. I mean, so many people over the past several days have been coming out here just to pay their respects, just to say goodbye. And the motorcade is continuing to leave up Auburn Avenue right now. We know they're going to the Capitol. We didn't think they would be making these stops. I know we reported earlier, but these are some very pivotal stops in the congressman's life. So it is humbling to stand here and watch this from our vantage point. You could see so many people just lining the streets just to take a quick glimpse, take some pictures. There's some people waving at the motorcade. Atlanta really showing up to say goodbye to this man who really just meant so much to so many people, who impacted so many lives.
Hey, Ashley,
Karen.
you talk about how humbling it is for us to watch what's happening here. John Lewis was pretty humbled to see his space that big, honored in a way, you know, with that mural, because he was a man who shied away from that kind of thing. You know, it wasn't about John Lewis. It was really about the message and the movement.
No kidding. And you know, you think about somebody like John Lewis, and it really is hard to put into words just how influential and impactful this man's life was for so many lives, including my own. So yes, he was humble and kind of shied away from this, but he definitely deserves this mural. He deserves so much more. All of these streets named after him. We thank him for his 80 years of service.
Yeah, so many of us wouldn't be where we are today if it were not for Congressman John Lewis. Ashley, thank you. You know, it warms your heart really to see those moments of pause when the motorcade stops in front of those locations that were so significant to the congressman, and to think how many times he may have passed by them before, and this is his last journey, the last time he will pass by those locations. Let's head out right now to Haley Mason. She's live at the state capitol, and that will be the final stop for this motorcade as services will begin there at 2 o'clock. And Haley, you've really covered so many of these days of services, and today we are on the 5th day, which is themed Atlanta's Servant Leader, and it's really all about celebrating Congressman Lewis and all he did for the state of Georgia, and really for the short time he was a city leader.
That's right. We are here in downtown Atlanta on Washington Street, where people have filed into the streets to pay homage to Congressman John Lewis. And as you noted, in the early 80s, he was actually Atlanta City Council member John Lewis before he made his bid for Congress in the 5th Congressional District that he loved and was committed to for more than 3 decades. Right now at the Capitol, we are waiting on the motorcade. I'm going to step out and let you see the honor guard has taken formation just over the shoulder of this trooper, and we are waiting for the motorcade to come down Washington Street. Where the honor guard is standing, we are expecting Governor Kemp to greet the family as the motorcade stops there, and Congressman Lewis's body will be brought up those main stairs. I'm told that Governor Kemp will then present Congressman Lewis's son, John Miles Lewis, with a flag, and they will proceed into the Capitol for a private ceremony with lawmakers, family, and invited guests, as the congressman will then lie in state for the rest of the evening inside the Georgia State Capitol. Really a native son of the South, a gem, an American hero, and a gift to this country, a fearless and courageous crusader who was willing at every turn to lay down his life so that African Americans could have voting rights, so that African Americans could ride on a bus with white citizens as well. And he was pivotal and integral in so much of what we know to be present day American civil rights. And he's being honored as the hero that we have come to know him to be, Karen.
All right, Haley, thank you so much. Yes, we are on the front end of the Capitol where this motorcade will stop. That's the honor guard you were talking about. We've got a shot of them right here waiting to accept his body here on the steps of the Georgia Capitol. This has been really a quick journey from the base here. They made a couple of stops, not very many, because they wanted to get here in a timely manner, as we're told. And we can hear that the motorcade is very close. We've got people lined up all around. Here they are. They're entering right now, lined up along this route, ready to say their goodbyes before the congressman's body is taken into the Capitol. Atlanta police officers strong have escorted him from Dobbins Air Reserve to a couple of stops right here. Let's watch this. And the hearse making its way to the steps of the Georgia Capitol, followed by a bus of friends and family who made the trek from the nation's capital here to Congressman Lewis's final resting place. He will, let me take a pause right here.
Oh, down. I'm gonna go ahead and move up.
And this is Ferris Watkins, the daughter of Willie Watkins, who really is starting to take over her family's legacy. She has traveled with Congressman Lewis's family and that entourage from the nation's capital to here in Atlanta. His sisters, brothers, all the first to go to greet Governor Kemp on the steps of the Capitol. They're going to make sure these 2 bus loads of family and friends are escorted up the steps before the Congressman's body is removed from the hearse here.
And Karen, while you wait for that, just wanted to mention, I mean, it's, surprising the speed at which this motorcade was able to leave Dobbins and really make most of the stops along the route before making it to the Capitol there. I know initially we had thought they weren't going to be able to make those stops, but so moving and so heartwarming for so many of the people who were at those locations
and you should see
to really say their final goodbyes.
Who have just helped the Congressman make this trek from Cobb County here to the city of Atlanta this afternoon. The sun has come out, the rain has gone away. It's going to be a very special tribute. We see Governor Kemp and Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms standing at the foot of the stairs there, Mrs. Marty Kemp as well, ready to welcome the Congressman's body into the Capitol. And accompanying Mayor Bottoms is Calvin Smyrie, considered the Dean of the Georgia Legislation. He is going to be making remarks at the service inside the rotunda. And now the family and friends entering behind the Congressman's body.
And Karen, as we watch, it is just so surreal, even from our vantage point here in the studio, to hear complete silence in downtown Atlanta.
Very moving ceremoniously, moving the Congressman's body up these steps of the Capitol. Now, they could have entered in any of the many entrances of the Georgia State Capitol, but they chose these stairs as part of a ceremony. Very fitting, very moving. So the family, it looks like, went up with the Congressman, and many of the friends who traveled along with them on the route are taking the other entrance, the door to the right of the Capitol. They're going to be entering that way.
Yeah, we're taking a live look inside the Capitol Rotunda right now as we await those family members and close friends, and then, of course, the body of the late Congressman John Lewis.
And that service set to begin in just a matter of minutes now, once everyone is in place.
And here's a look inside the rotunda of the Capitol, where the family will be seated and the casket will be placed in the center there for that ceremony.
And Karen, it appears as though each speaker, one of the first will be, and you had an opportunity to speak with her, State Representative Karen Bennett. It looks as though each speaker will keep their comments very brief. I think right now Karen may be having a difficult time hearing us. But again, the first speaker will be State Representative Karen Bennett, and she will begin with an opening prayer followed by Governor Brian Kemp. He will offer remarks and again present the Georgia state flag to Congressman John Lewis's son, John Miles. and that will be followed by Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, and she will bring remarks as well. And of course, we will continue our coverage right here on CBS 46.
And if you are just joining us, this is our special coverage, the final farewell for John Lewis, the statesman who served our state and our country so diligently for so many years, coming home back to his adopted hometown of Atlanta, and a special ceremony taking place at the Capitol Rotunda.
And as part of today's special services, there will be a public viewing that'll start at 3 p.m. today and stop down for just a brief point at 7 p.m. and then pick back up at 8:30 p.m. until 10 o'clock, where members of the public are welcome, but the family is asking if you do plan to attend, go out yourself, or family members or friends plan to go out, to wear a face covering. And also remember to social distance as well. We know this will be an opportunity for so many who never had a chance to say hello or speak with Congressman Lewis, to really say their final goodbyes. And so many across Atlanta want the opportunity to do that. The family is also encouraging others who are not able to participate to go to the state capitol, to tie a blue or purple ribbon on their front doors or put in their front yards to commemorate the life and legacy of Congressman John Lewis.
And as we watch the ceremony in the Capitol Rotunda right now, we see Governor Kemp. We will be hearing from him in just a few minutes. And there were, I'm sure when we widen out this shot in just a little bit, you'll see there were 2 portraits of John Lewis there today. A young black and white photo of a very young John Lewis from his early days in the civil rights movement, and then an older John Lewis who actually continued to fight till the very last breath.
And such an emotional day for so many. Really, it's been a weekend and part of a week filled with powerful emotions. Services that started on Saturday in Troy, Alabama, not far from Congressman Lewis's birthplace. Of course, the boy from Troy really made Atlanta his adopted home. And today is day 5 of a series of services. We'll cap off tomorrow with private funeral services that will also include the attendance of 3 former presidents, President Barack Obama, George W. Bush, and Bill Clinton will all be there at Ebenezer Baptist Church. That service will be tomorrow at 11 p.m. And after that, Congressman Lewis will be buried next to his wife, Lillian. She passed away in 2012, and the 2 of them will be together in their eternal resting place.
And the significance, Tracy, of where that service is going to be held tomorrow, Ebenezer Baptist Church, of course, the home church of his friend and co-fighter in the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King Jr. And Martin Luther King Jr., I think, certainly changed the trajectory of John Lewis's life. when a very young John Lewis at 17 wrote him a letter, and Martin Luther King Jr. sent him a round-trip ticket to Montgomery, Alabama, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Right, really inspired his activism, and certainly was alongside him in 1963 there at that historic march on Washington, and one of the key speakers there, the youngest, age 23. And just to think of all he's accomplished and done, and the difference he's made in so many people's lives.
And, you know, we of course always remember the "I Have a Dream" speech from that day in 1963. And John Lewis's speech was inspiring, to say the least. I mean, they wanted him to tone it down just a little bit because they were afraid it was going to rile too many people up.
Right.
But he didn't tone it down. That was that tenacious, pugnacious John Lewis that we came to know over the course of his career and his service.
One of the things he said, Gravere, "Wake up, America, wake up, for we cannot stop and we will not and cannot be patient." And it really speaks to his life and legacy, because even up until his last days, he continued to fight for civil rights, for voter rights. And as we mentioned earlier, one of his last public appearances was there in the Black Lives Matter Plaza, where the roadway painted Black Lives Matter there in Washington, D.C. was the last time we saw the congressman in public, very frail, wearing his mask, but he was there.
That's what, you know, I think that's what struck me so much is, you know, we're so used to seeing him, that strong, stout man. And when I saw that image of him, and I thought, oh, look at John Lewis and how frail he looks. So his body was frail, but you know what? Inside he was still the fighter.
Absolutely passionate and humble and caring until his last days. Many say they remember him for his humanity and compassion, and that's what set him apart. Listening earlier this morning to one of the congressional reporters, and she said, you know, John Lewis was one of those leaders who didn't need to be out in front. It wasn't about him. You know, he'd already staked his claim and become a civil rights icon even before he made it to Congress. So as he was in Congress and as he was a congressional leader, he wasn't trying to make his mark. He had already made it, even at that point. So that was one of the things that she remembered about him, and that so many remembered about him, and why he was named the conscience of Congress, because he was the one who brought everyone back down to earth and said, you know what, this is what it's about. And again, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi had made it very clear that the two of them were friends. You know, he was brought in earlier today on House Speaker Pelosi's plane. You know, she was one of the first ones to announce the series of services for Congressman Lewis late last week. So he's just left an indelible mark on so many. And, you know, it's hard to say goodbye, but at this point, he has served our country and our state and our city so well that you wish him well. Now that he can rest in peace.
Absolutely. And I know we say this, and we have said this in the past, but I think it's very fitting that when he gets to heaven, God is going to say, well done, my good and faithful servant, because it's the truth. And he was a servant. He was a servant to the people and for the cause.
Absolutely.
And, you know, you talk about his patience, and that's the truth. John Lewis had a lot of patience. He didn't have patience for injustice, though. He didn't have patience for that sort of thing. That's what got under his skin. And there are the portraits, too, off to the left that I was referring to just a short while ago, as people make their way in for this special ceremony that'll take place just in a few minutes. They've been pretty much on track today, I think.
They did make quick work of getting from Dobbins Air Reserve Base to the state capitol. There were a number of stops they had planned to make along the way. They were able to hit most of them. It was so emotional seeing, and of course we'll post a lot of the pictures and the images on CBS46.com, so you will be able to watch those as well. There's Martin Luther King Jr., Martin Luther King III there, along with his daughter Yolanda. I had the opportunity to speak with them shortly after Congressman Lewis passed. But what was so great, and to speak to Yolanda, who's 12 years old, she remembers so much from Congressman Lewis and really what he was about. And that was the thing that Martin Luther King III said, that Congressman Lewis had such an impact on the younger generation, and he wouldn't turn them away. And that was really his focus, was about the younger generation, because how do you make a change unless you focus on those who are coming up and those who are yet to be? And that's where his focus was. And it was just so wonderful to see how she remembered the congressman and speaking to him, and how he didn't tire of her questions. Gravir, you and I both have children, and we know they can ask a lot of questions. But Congressman Lewis did not tire of young Yolanda King's questions. She had many for him, but that was a wonderful thing to hear. And it's really times like this that you go back to a lot of those wonderful memories of those moments with the congressman that so many had.
You know, it was 1 week ago today that we were watching something very similar to this with C.T. Vivian, who passed away on the same day as John Lewis. So in the span of a week, we've celebrated these two giants, two very different men, very different in their approach, but certainly with the same message. He could make you laugh. Oh, that's the other thing I was going to say. It just reminded me. Okay, so he's so serious. He is so tenacious. He is, he's passionate about what he believes. But man, oh man, did he have a sense of humor, and he loved music. You remember him dancing?
Oh yeah, I loved
You remember him dancing to Happy at Stacey Abrams' campaign rally? He would break out in a dance in a moment.
He was so joyful doing it. And of course, he made appearances on late night television with Stephen Colbert. I don't know if you remember this. I didn't remember until I saw it posted on social media. He crowd surfed. He actually got up and the crowd carried him. He was 76 years old, brave till the very end. That is true courage, to allow someone to have you be carried by them across a crowd. But you know what? That's the kind of person he was, truly a man of the people, and really never lost that zest for life, that love for life.
You know, it's interesting, this is the 5th day of celebrations now for John Lewis and his life and his legacy and what he's meant to all of us. And I have really enjoyed watching every little bit of his life, because it's little pieces that make the man. And so all the pieces, starting in Troy, Alabama, just outside of Troy, on that sharecropper's farm where he was born, and hearing from his family members, his sister, about who he was back then. And really, he stayed true to that, even to the end, even to the Capitol, being honored by presidents. He never lost that. And so every little bit of that is a little part of who he was. Right. And will continue to be.
Those humble beginnings, I think, kept him certainly grounded and kept his focus on what he was fighting for, the civil rights and equality of all people, and voter rights as well, and the need to get out and vote, and the importance of our voice in this democratic process. There we see Governor Brian Kemp and First Lady Marty Kemp. Take their seats there in the Capitol Rotunda. Of course, this is just the second day we're seeing services very similar to this. Just the last 2 days, the congressman was the first black lawmaker to lie in state at the Capitol Rotunda, the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C., where a number of congressional leaders paid tribute to the congressman, and also Vice President Former Vice President Joe Biden was there, and Vice President Mike Pence paid their respects, and Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor was there to pay her respects as well. All right, they are about to begin this the ceremony there in the Capitol Rotunda. This is actually State Representative Karen Bennett. She will begin with an opening prayer. Let's listen in.
Good afternoon, First Lady Mrs. Kemp, to Madam Mayor Lance Bottoms, to Dean Smyrie, and to this humble family, the Lewis family, and all who have assembled here today as guests. This is a great day. This is a great day. Today, as we gather in somber celebration of the life and legendary legacy of Congressman John Robert Lewis, a gentle giant of a man, there is a sweet, sweet spirit in this place. Congressman Lewis, born to sharecroppers, who was called by God, and he rose to greatness as a gentle man. He fought against those who sought to oppress rather than provide opportunity. He stood against those who sought to deny rather than ensure equitable rights among all humanity, and worked against those who sought to divide and conquer rather than to sow seeds of hope and unity. Congressman Lewis, a gentle giant of a man, walked as he marched and prayed that others could live a better life where inalienable rights are truths that are self-evident for everyone. Congressman Lewis, a gentle giant man, spoke truth to power as a prophet ordained and called by God, following the footsteps of Moses, Martin, and another named John. Congressman Lewis laid down his life for all of us, and he taught us how to get into good trouble. In the book of Micah, the 6th chapter, the 8th verse, the question is asked, and what does the Lord require of us all? God's reply is to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly before your God. So today we gather in somber celebration to celebrate Congressman John Lewis, our great giant of a man who heeded God's call. And as one of God's chosen prophets, he lived by showing us how to get into good trouble, by acting justly, loving mercy, and walking humbly before his God. Let us pray. God of justice, love, and mercy, we come thanking you for the life of our dearly beloved Congressman John Robert Lewis, who knew you for himself. We come, oh God, asking that you put your loving arms around this family, giving them the comfort of knowing that everything is going to be all right. Giving them the comfort of knowing that you are the same God, Lord, who wrapped your loving arms around daddy, brother, uncle, and friend, the same God who without you, we would be like a ship without a sail. So today, oh God, we thank you. We thank you for the many lives that our beloved Congressman Lewis touched, thanking you for calling him to rise to greatness as a beacon of light, a symbol of hope, a change agent for the world, and the moral consciousness of our great nation. For we know that he is now on the mountaintop with you, Lord, and for those who believe, we shall see him again. Oh, happy day, Lord, that we can say thank you. Thank you for sending your prophet John, and because he lived, lives are so much better. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow, because he lived, the fight will continue for voting rights. Because he lived, the fight will continue for equity and justice for all. And because he lived, speaking truth to power is not just another cliche, but real trouble for us to follow. Thank you, God, for sending our gentle giant, the moral conscience of America, in the life of Congressman John Robert Lewis. And to all who love the Lord, join me in saying amen, amen, and amen. Bless you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, Marty, the girls, and I join countless Georgians and Americans in mourning the loss of Congressman John Lewis, a titan of the civil rights movement, a beloved Georgian, an American hero, and a friend to all who sought a better, fairer, more united society. Congressman John Lewis changed our country in profound and immeasurable ways, and his legacy of passionate service is truly unmatched. As mentioned, the son of sharecroppers, John Lewis felt his calling at a young age and devoted every waking moment to the fight for justice, equality, access, and opportunity for all people, no matter their skin color. He built quite a reputation along the way, and the good trouble that led to real change, inspired a country, and changed this world. No matter where you go, everyone knows the name of John Lewis. And more importantly, they know his record of standing up, speaking out, and shaking up the status quo. At home in the 5th District, this legendary freedom fighter was a friendly neighborhood face, serving his constituents selflessly and with open arms. In our country's most trying moments, Congressman John Lewis taught us the lesson of joyful, steadfast commitment to ideals bigger than one man or one movement. When faced with fierce, violent opposition on a bridge in Selma, Alabama, John Lewis stared evil and injustice in the eye. He didn't turn back that Sunday because he was grounded in a deep belief that our worth was given by God, not by man. His example taught us that we have nothing to lose and everything to gain by working together and loving one another. And even today, as our country faces a public health crisis and new challenges rooted in injustice, I know that the example left behind by Congressman Lewis, the man who literally crossed the aisle to embrace retiring Republican Senator Johnny Isakson, will inspire all of us to do the hard, necessary work to overcome our shared challenges and emerge stronger. The Congressman put it best by saying, "We love our country, we love our democratic society, so we have to move our feet." As we mourn his passing, we all should recommit ourselves to the principles he fought for, our country's core foundation in liberty, freedom, and justice for all. America and the state of Georgia will be forever stronger, freer, and more just because of Congressman John Lewis. But we must do our part to build on his work and keep his legacy alive. He urged us to love one another, to walk and to work together despite our differences, and push our state and our nation toward a better tomorrow. His leadership in the civil rights movement and more than 30-year career in public service embodies our highest ideals. And we are each, as Georgians and Americans, better for his work. So, and now, in honor of his memory, we have to move our feet. May his words, actions, and legacy continue to serve as our country's conscience. The prayers of my family and all Georgians are with Congressman Lewis's family, his loved one, his staff who worked so hard on his behalf, and all of us that he inspired. God bless you all, and may God continue to bless this great state and nation.
Governor Kemp, Dean Smyrie, John Miles, and to the family, Some 85 years ago, the great Langston Hughes wrote of the promise and pain of America. Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain, seeking a home where he himself is free. America never was America to me. Let America be the dream, the dreamer's dream. Let it be that great, strong land of love, where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above. It never was America to me. Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe. Some 5 years after these words were written, a descendant of the enslaved, a son of sharecroppers, was born, and the words of the Lord rested upon his life. Before I formed you, I knew you in the womb. Before you were born, I sanctified you. I ordained you a prophet to the nations. And this prophet, our prophet, called upon America to be America again. And so we gather here today in what was once a stronghold of the Confederacy together, because this prophet lived and this prophet named John Lewis loved. Like so many, I have a deep and abiding admiration for Congressman Lewis, and I've had it my entire life. I would see his lovely wife Lillian when she came into my mother's hair salon to have her hair done. She was a beautiful and brilliant woman whose love and affection for John Miles was evident in every conversation that she had. I knew Congressman Lewis as the man who worked in SNCC with my Aunt Ruby Doris Smith Robinson. She died at the age 26, leaving a 2-year-old son behind. Each time I saw the congressman, his eyes glistened with tears when he spoke of her. He told me stories of being beaten with her and going to jail together in Rock Hill, South Carolina. He always made sure to ask about her son, Teray. Although an Alabama legend, an Atlanta icon, and an American hero, Congressman Lewis to take time to let me know, to let all of us know that we mattered to him. And so I don't think it was happenstance that in his final public appearance, he visited the Black Lives Matters mural in Washington, D.C. And it was around this same time that I joined him on a Zoom call with President Obama and the Obama Foundation for My Brother's Keeper. Until his last days, he was calling upon America to be America again in his words and his deeds. I was deeply moved a couple of days ago when his Chief of Staff, Michael Collins, shared with me that the congressman was intently watching the news of Atlanta and proud of the leadership that's been shown. And so, Governor, when the good trouble continues, know that it is with the blessings of Congressman Lewis. And although the fight for liberty and equality continues, Congressman Lewis reminded us to be hopeful, to be optimistic, and to never lose a sense of hope. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet, and yet must be, the land where every man is free.
I'm State Representative Calvin Smyrie, and I am deeply, deeply honored to be here today. To Governor Kemp, to Mayor Bottoms, to Representative Bennett and the members of the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus, to all of our constitutional officers, our judicial branch, members of the General Assembly, and all elected officials, ladies and gentlemen. To John, to you and your family, the entire John Lewis family, welcome to the rotunda of the Georgia State Capitol, where on today we pay our fond respects and show our admiration to a fallen hero and often called the conscience of the Congress, and to bid him farewell. We heard inside, and we mourn the loss of Congressman John Lewis, yet we cherish the life he lived and the contributions he made to humanity. We thank him for his sacrifices and all that he gave that others would enjoy a better life. He was a fearless warrior in real life. We all have stories of personal charm, his greatness, his many struggles, and the strength of his character. A giant redwood tree has fallen in the Georgia forest of life. Having been elected in 1974, over 46 years ago, brings me and my mind to the events of March 7th, 1965, Bloody Sunday. John Lewis paid a personal heavy price on the Selma to Montgomery March, as he was badly beaten and thought he had died. It was because of his endless courage, his commitment to the struggle, and getting in good trouble that gave us the opportunity to seek public office. History records that it was the events of that dreaded day that led to the passage of the 1965 Voting Rights Act, which propelled and opened the way for African Americans to seek public office and bring needed change to creating good public policy which determines our quality of life. He always stated that voting was so precious. People died for our right to vote. John Lewis, the son of a sharecropper, was told, don't get in the way, don't get in trouble. He was inspired by Rosa Parks when he met her at 17 years old, and a year later, meeting Martin Luther King Jr. at 18 years of age. Those two people inspired John Lewis to get in the way and find necessary good trouble. In the emotional John Lewis speech that was played during the U.S. Capitol Memorial, which brought tears to my eyes, he gave and left us a mandate to stand up, speak out, a mandate to find a way to get in the way and make our state and country a better place. Keep the faith. We're not going back. We are going forward. We must keep the faith, and that's our moral obligation. Never become bitter. Never hate. We are one people. There may be some setbacks, but we all must keep the faith. Never give up. Never give up. That's our calling. John, in your memory and as a legacy, you will continue to motivate us, inspire us, and be a solid strength of source. You will be missed, but we will cherish the memories and the moments. You left us with many challenges to seek answers and certain principles to guide us. Your mark on America is forever established and recorded. Dr. Martin Luther King once said, and I quote, "If a man has not discovered something that he will die for, he isn't fit to live." John Robert Lewis found something to die for. Freedom. Oh, freedom. The loss of John Lewis reminds us to never be afraid of where we are going when we know God is going with us. God be with you, John Lewis. Job well done, thy faithful servant. Job well done. Our closing prayer, Lord of all, we praise you for all you have entered into thy rest and reached the promised land where you are seen face to face. Lord, give us grace to follow in thy footsteps as thou follow in the way of your Son. Thank you. Thank you for the memory of those you have called to yourself. By each memory, turn our hearts from things seen to things unseen, and lead us till we come to the eternal rest you have prepared for your people. Through your name we pray. Amen. If everyone could remain seated until the family exits the rotunda. Thank you for your cooperation.
And a good afternoon if you're just joining us. Rick Fulbam along with Sean Gables, and we're watching live coverage of a special ceremony that has just taken place inside the state capitol rotunda in Atlanta, honoring the late John Lewis, whose body arrived here home in Georgia earlier today, having spent the last couple of days in Washington, D.C. There was another procession as his casket was driven through the streets of Atlanta, past significant landmarks along the way, including that beautiful mural that you see on the left-hand side of your screen. The family taking one last chance to drive past some of the significant spots here in town that have been so important to the late congressman and his family. A beautiful service with speakers including the governor and the mayor of Atlanta. Let's take another look and listen.
As we continue to watch the invite-only individuals that were attending Congressman John Lewis's private service inside the Capitol Rotunda in downtown Atlanta, they are slowly starting to leave out inside the Rotunda. It was an invitation-only ceremony. It was very short but poignant. Karen, the governor, spoke. Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms She really started off her speech with a very poignant reminder of the words from Langston Hughes. Many of us may be familiar with his poem, Let America Be America Again. Let it be the pioneer on the plain, she said, seeking a home where he himself is free. And Karen, I know that you were listening outside of the rotunda. There is going to be another service that will start shortly once this crowd leaves from inside the rotunda. It'll be a private ceremony for the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus. And then after that, tonight at 7 o'clock, Congressman Lewis was a member of Phi Beta Sigma. His fraternity will hold also a private service for him. Should last about 45 minutes, and then it will be open to the public to start their public viewing. Karen, you're outside the rotunda. That crowd is starting to walk out. You heard the speeches that were inside. Governor Kemp, I'm just monitoring social media. Governor Kemp getting some accolades for showing respect for John Lewis, but also receiving some criticism for showing up.
Yes, we are right out here at the steps of the Capitol. The family actually just came out moments ago, and as you can see, people are lined up, ready to go in and view the body of Congressman John Lewis. Yes, very interesting comments inside the Capitol. I'm sure everybody knows what that is about, as the governor filed a lawsuit against the city of Atlanta and the mayor about her taking the city back to stage one, perhaps, when it comes to masks and the coronavirus pandemic. Very concerned because she was making masks mandatory. He did not feel that she was staying in her lane, in her line, and took the city to court. Now, they are supposed to be mediating this and perhaps not going to court. The hearing was set for yesterday. That hearing was postponed, but we will be keeping our eye on this after today's words inside the Capitol Rotunda. What happens next with that? But it was a very moving moment for the family and friends of Congressman Lewis, as his body was taken in, the first African American to lie in state here at the state capitol. And Congressman Lewis said, get in good trouble. Always get in good trouble. That's what he did. That's what he believed in. And perhaps that's what the mayor feels like she is doing at this point in her career. Good trouble. She feels like she is working to change things for people in the city of Atlanta, to keep them safe, to keep them healthy. The family of Congressman Lewis, of course, asking everyone who is out here who wants to go in and view his body to have a mask on. You're probably asking where my mask is. I am away from everyone, and while I'm talking, I try not to put it on so that you can hear me, but I do put it on when I'm interviewing people who don't have a mask on, and when I'm not able to get far enough away from people. So they're really wrapping up. This ceremony was very quick with the Georgia Legislative Caucus, Black Caucus. They wrapped things up, said their remarks. They're supposed to have time with the congressman's body now until 3 o'clock when it opens to the public. So all of this will open to the public in just about 20 minutes.
And Karen, there's been some,
will, and Karen, throw it to you. Karen,
there has been some just protocol for those, because the public viewing will start from 3 until 7 o'clock today. And because the congressman's memorial and him lying in state is also at a time where we're in a pandemic with coronavirus, they are asking anyone who wants to come is invited to pay their respects inside the Capitol Rotunda, but they are asking a couple of things. You must wear a mask, you must social distance, and just be respectful of others, especially to ensure that no one exposes himself to coronavirus.
I will say, Sean, just looking at the lines out here that have formed around the Capitol, forms from Washington Street around to the door where they will be able to go inside. There's no social distancing in this line. People are very close. Some have masks on, some do not, but I'm sure perhaps when they get inside the Capitol, they will be forced to put those masks on, perhaps be given a mask if they don't have one. But You know, the sun is beaming down. Folks have been standing here. I'd say this line started forming, oh my goodness, about 11 a.m. at least. We got here at 8 this morning, just after 8 this morning, and we saw people in the neighborhood, but that line really didn't start forming until about 11, maybe even 10 this morning. So it is moving though, so you can tell they are letting them in, Sean.
And Karen, we are going to allow you to get a respite as the public viewing gets underway, Rick. This will take place inside the Capitol Rotunda from 3 until 7. As Karen mentioned, social distancing, in some cases, it looks like there's some space between those who are waiting in line, but certainly some are wearing masks, some are not. But this is a day that many have been waiting for. This has been 6 days. It'll be a total of 6 days before John Lewis will be laid to rest.
The boy from Troy, who eventually made his home here in Atlanta, has come home one final time. His body now on public display, viewing for anyone that wants to go and pay their respects. And Sean, it's going to stay there until tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. And then, of course, tomorrow will be the late Congressman's funeral, which will have a whole slew of VIPs descending here on Atlanta in order to pay their final respects to Congressman John Lewis, a civil rights icon and a local congressman who served the 5th District here in Atlanta for 30 plus years in the halls of Congress. Our coverage is going to continue. Team coverage. We'll have a full wrap-up of all the day's events, including what to look for tonight and tomorrow, coming up later at 4 o'clock on CBS 46 News. Thanks for joining us.